Hello and welcome back to the Seven Figure Standard Podcast. I'm Mykie Stiller, joined by my co-host Arash Vossoughi, and we are so thrilled to be back with you for another episode. Today we're going to talk about something that I think everyone will be able to relate to, and that is the hidden cost of good enough. Arash, I feel like this has to be a pet peeve of yours because I know your standards are so high. It's a pet peeve of mine, but it's not something that I can't relate to. It's not something that I have never fallen a victim to. So I'm really excited we're getting into this topic today. And I want to know just your initial thoughts before I start digging in with some questions.
I mean, we all can understand it, like good enough. I've been there. I understand it. I can't relate to it anymore. But the reason I can't relate to it is because I've changed so significantly. I remember, Mike, I was on a podcast with a gentleman, and he was interviewing me. And he said, it was kind of funny how it happened. He said, I tell all my followers that just go for good. And he goes, what do you think about that? I said, well, I disagree completely. And I quoted Jim Collins' book, From Good to Great, and how Collins, and I was telling the gentleman interviewing me, and I said, good is the enemy of great. And I don't believe in good. I only believe in great. Why would you go after good if you understand how much potential we have? And it kind of took him back, and he goes, explain it more. I don't want any of the people we coach, the people listening to our followers, going after good. You have greatness inside of you. I want you to chase greatness. And I want you to understand, most people don't fail because they can't succeed. They fail because they settle. They reach a level that's just good enough, and it becomes their invisible wall that steals their potential. What is the cost? I want you to think about this when I'm saying this to all of you. What is it costing you by not stretching? What is it costing you going after good enough if you think about the amount of time you lose, the income you're costing yourself, the type of relationships you have, and the type of impact?
So would you say that this, well, actually, let me take you back. So I have a saying, I usually mostly with my kids or with my family, if you're going to do something, overdo it. And by that, I mean, like, don't just halfway do something. Like, if you're going to do something, really do it, like really go for it. Mm-hmm. Do you think that that is more of an attitude or a standard? So when someone is doing something just good enough versus doing something with excellence, is that an attitude, a standard, a philosophy? Where does that fall?
Well, attitude is everything, but standard is an attitude. So if you look at anybody's results, I could look at my results and it will tell me where my attitude is and where my standard is. But the deal is we have to stretch. Without stretching, none of this is possible. And stretching is part of the deal to really create a life of fulfillment, really the greatest amount of joy and happiness. But we can always get better. But, my mentor used to always tell me, and I didn't understand it for years. He goes, Arash, better is a great word. And now I understand it more than ever because that's all we have to do. We've done an episode on it, on just beat your personal best from the day before. If you keep doing that, but now you do it with a certainty. When you're certain, you have this swagger to you. You have this confidence. You have this air where you're so comfortable, but you do every action with a certainty, with this knowingness. When you're speaking, your authority is so much more owned. Like you own your authority. Your language is so different. When you're looking at opportunities, partnerships, ideas, you are so certain. It changes the game. Certainty is such a big word to create greatness. When we're not certain, we're tiptoeing our way towards something. Well, if it happens, that'd be great. And we want to be so darn certain in everything we do. And when we do that, everything changes.
So then why do you think people fall into the trap of just doing things good enough, just doing things in an average way? Is it laziness? Is it drifting? Is it not paying attention? Is it not knowing what they want, so they're not doing anything with intention? What is it exactly?
It's how they see themselves. Plain and simple. It's how they see themselves. And they are always getting ready to be getting ready. They're always planning to plan. why can one person be certain and the other is not? It's just a decision. One believes in themselves in the greatest way and one doesn't. But when we're settling, it's truly impacting everything, right? It's impacting everything we do. It impacts our financial life. It impacts our relationships. There's an emotional cost it impacts the example we set for our family, and what happens is your kids are going to live that example. And so there's a big cost of settling.
Then is the catalyst to change, if you're settling for good enough, to great, giving up the good enough for the great, for the excellent, does it start with action, or does it start with thinking? Does it start with a goal?
It starts with a much bigger future. Most people are afraid to go in their future, but you have to have a big image of the future, because if you don't have enough reasons to do something, you're not going to do it. But we've got to ask a different question. Why does settling feel safe? Why are people settling? See, I think that would help people understand it, because they may not even know. I don't like that I'm settling, but I am. It's because it's an identity mismatch. They're married to their comfort zone, and they want social approval from the circle they're in. And so, I used to go after good enough. I remember in the corporate world, it was I had this goal, and I'd hit it. But then I was for the first few years when I was doing business-to-business sales, that's what I was doing. Then I was no, let's see what's possible. And what happens is good enough was my barrier. And when I changed that, all of a sudden, I went from literally the bottom of the company to the top of the company to the vice president of sales of that company. And the guy who hired me, I became his boss. And the funny thing is, I wasn't even passionate about it. I just started setting daily goals that were further, because that's what motivated me. See, when in your life have you said, this is fine, when deep down you know you were meant for more? That'll tell you your soul is saying, come on, there's more for us to do. There's more for us to do.
Well, and then how many times have you said this is fine, and then later it drives you crazy, and it drives you crazy, and it drives you crazy? I would almost guarantee that those that are settling for good enough are lying to themselves. They are not being honest with themselves. They're not being truthful about what they're really going after or how they feel about it. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, they just don't understand themselves, because the person who's settling just doesn't understand their potential. They've never taken the time to do the deep work, the transformative work. They're doing the surface work. That's why they settle for an income. They settle for staying at a job. Go ahead.
Explain that, because I know we get questions on it. Whenever you say deep work versus surface work, people don't quite understand what that means always. What does that mean?
That means you're not just listening to the podcast, you're implementing it. You're not just listening to what I'm telling you, you're getting out of your comfort zone and doing it. You're not just going for average sales performance or growing your business incrementally, you're going for a big jump. So you're believing bigger. You're thinking so much bigger, and you act faster. That's how you know you're actually transforming. The person who just sits there and constantly creates the same results year after year and is dissatisfied but doesn't do anything, that's surface level work. The person who is dissatisfied and says, I'm done. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't even know if it'll work, but I'm going after something bigger. That's when transformation happens.
So what would you encourage someone to do if they're listening to this podcast right now thinking, I've had enough. I've had enough of, doing good enough. I want to go to the next level. What do they do first?
Well, first they got to decide what the next level is. And then they've got to give meaning to it. Why do I want to go to the next level? Why is this important to me? How will that change how I see myself? So you got to ask bigger questions, you get bigger answers. I was working with a client today, and I was telling her this morning, and I was I asked myself this question that is such a huge question, and I said, I've told it to some clients, and I don't think they understand it. I said, the type of life you want to live, are you available for it? And are we available? We say we want things, but are we open to go do those things? That's what it means, availability. You know when you're available for a thing because you make every decision from that way of living, that way of being. So a lot of people are grinding because they're not available for it. They think, I'm just going to do this by myself. I'm going to work as hard as I can. But it's going to create frustration. It's going to create a disconnect from their purpose because your purpose is driven by other people. Your purpose is driven by helping. So there's an emotional cost we pay when we're not available to it.
How would you know the answer to that question?
Just look at your energy. Like, are you frustrated? Are you stretching? Are you doing your most important activities even though you keep failing? Are you stopping when you get rejected, or does that motivate you more to keep getting better? So all you have to do, are you hesitating? Are you doubting? Do you value yourself? These are all really good questions you can ask yourself that will tell you which way you're going.
This is so good. Would you say that there's always another, like no matter what level you get to in success in your journey, there's still a level of overcoming that good enough to great, because you get to a place and you get comfortable with what you're doing that maybe would have been great for you 5 years ago, but now it's good enough. Now it's time to stretch again. Does that make sense what I'm trying to ask here?
Here's where the data is important, okay? A lot of people think they're stretching, they're not. And they don't look at the data. I have someone on our team that I was working with this on. And I said, do you want to have the best 90 days of your life? And they said yes. And I said, okay, here's what I want to do. Send me your goal. So I looked at their goal. Then I pulled up their numbers of what they've done for the past 6 months. Well, their goal that they thought they were stretching was the same as what they'd always done. They didn't know it. That's why data is so important. So I changed the number for them. And I said, this is your target. Well, not only did they do it, they crushed that goal in 90 days. But if we didn't look at the data, then we wouldn't have known. And that's the hidden commitment. The hidden commitment will keep us where we are, even though we think we're going somewhere else. So you always want to scale your life, to scale your business. It's always about data and accountability. The more data we have, the more we can measure. Anything we can measure, we can become. And so that's where it can be a little confusing at times. And so, like I'm always telling people that I coach, ideas are a currency. Let's work on a bigger idea. But I connect the idea to what they really want, not just a random idea. Like earning money is only a good idea if it has purpose behind it. It's only a good idea if it's changing somebody's life. And whatever product or service you have, you could be a realtor and you're going to change someone's life. You get them in this house, or you sell their house so they can walk in and be in a completely different position. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. But we have to understand whatever we're going after to chase greatness, we have to have a reason to chase greatness. And that when you decide, like, I really want this, now you bridge it with certainty. Like, this is what I'm doing. I want everybody to take a 7-day test with me, not just for me, but with me. And I want you for the next 7 days to be more certain in everything you do for the next 7 days. Watch how much your life is going to change. That means your language. That means your actions. That means your circle. You're not just a yes person. That means everything you're doing, I want you to spread into it.
So if they do the challenge and they have moments of uncertainty, moments of hesitation, what do? Press in?
Keep going. Keep going. Like, you're going to have moments of doubt. Like, if you don't have doubt, then you would already done the thing. It wouldn't be a good goal. It wouldn't be a great goal. It'd be an average goal. So, like, I have uncertainty all the time. But when you do it, you do the thing gives you power. So you got to lean in. It's never going to be in your comfort zone. Greatness is not created in your comfort zone. It's transforming day in and day out. It's upgrading yourself every day. And the only competition you have is who you were yesterday. That's the only thing I compete against was my potential from yesterday. But every time you settle, I want you to hear this. Every single time you settle, you reinforce an identity that says, I'm not worthy of greatness. I'm going to tell you that, so maybe that's a good enough reason for you not to settle.
So good. Okay, Raj, we've done full episodes on this, so I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I do want to touch on it because earlier you said the reason people settle for good enough is all related to their identity and how they see themselves. So whenever, like, having that information, should they sit down and write out a new identity, decide what their identity is?
No. What they have to do is, first of all, they have to decide what they want, what greatness means to them, whatever it means to them. The first step is they've got to raise their standards, not just their goals. Goals are negotiable, standards aren't. Standards are who we are. Number two, you've got to upgrade your environment. You've got to get in proximity with people who are further than you and where you make extraordinary your new baseline. And number three, you got to practice future truth. You got to sprint into, if I was living my standards for the next 90 days, what would my future truth be? But you bring the future into the present and you live and think from the version of you who's already demanded more. That's how you're going to do it. But you've got to pick one area of your life right now where you've been settling for good enough. And I want you to write it down and demand more. There's one area of your life you're frustrated. You're like, I know I'm settling here. Okay, I know where I'm settling. And I want you to get rid of that. If we settle one day, we're going to settle the next day. We've got to eliminate settling. Settling is crushing who we can be.
There's something that you often say, and that is that it's easier to behave your way into a new identity than to think your way into a new identity. And so I think that's related to the action and the challenge that you gave everyone as well, is they can't think their way into it. They've got to start demanding it of themselves.
Yeah, they've got to put themselves in higher environments. Right away, you're going to put yourself in uncomfortable situations that are good for you. But it's so much easier to change identity. Identity work, in my opinion, is so misunderstood. And people are constantly thinking they understand identity. But why? If you understand identity, why are you getting the results you don't want? So is it possible you don't understand it, you know about it, but you don't know it because you're not behaving your way into a new identity? There's no person on this planet right now that can't create the best 90 days of their life. There's not one person who can't, for the next 90 days, create the best 90 days. I don't care if you're crushing it. There's another level you can get to. And you're like, God, this is obsessive. Yes, it's obsessive. Our life goes by so quickly that if we're not in control of how we live, the world is going to be in control. And that's why 98% of the population is struggling. Like, if you're struggling right now, reach out for help. Reach out for help. Let me help you, because I can tell you it's going to change the game. It is going to change the game. Yesterday, Mike, I didn't even share this with you. My brother sent me a text that one of his friends, I guess we're coaching one of his friends. My brother and I didn't know it. And his friend says, are you related to this Vossoughi? He goes, yeah, it's my brother. And he said, well, I don't know what your brother's doing. I can't take any credit for it. Your brother's done it all. And he listens to him every day. And his business is absolutely catapulted. And he asked me if I knew who it was. And I said, I did. And I said, but this happens every day for the people who commit and get the right help. So I've never gotten greatness without getting the direction. I didn't all of a sudden become great. It's getting the direction and then doing it behind the scenes where nobody sees you're doing it.
Yeah. What is the cost that someone pays for just accepting good enough?
Well, they're going to set a very average life. And if that's what they want, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not what I want. It's not what I want for people, because when you soar for greatness, your experiences are going to be amazing. Your fulfillment's going to be amazing. You're going to be so excited about your life and enthusiastic, and that's when life becomes magical.
Yeah. All right, let's jump into, you already gave a challenge, but do you want to give an additional action step, or is that the action step for this week?
Oh, that's the action step. That's plenty. But I gave two. So I want to make sure there's one powerful one. Is for the next 7 days, I want you to be more certain than you've ever been. And I want you to report back to us, because I'm telling you it'll change the game.
Perfect. All right, Arash, thank you so much. Thanks to all of you. If you enjoyed today's episode, go ahead and leave us a rating and review. Share this with your friends and family members. And also, join us at our Transform event in Dallas, Texas, November 4th and 5th. There's still tickets available while we're recording this. Hopefully they're not sold out by the time you're hearing this in a couple of weeks. Go to vosscoachingco.com, click on events, and reserve your seat. And we hope to see you there. All right, Arash, thanks so much, and we'll see you on the next episode of the 7-Figure Standard podcast.
Thank you for listening to this episode of 7-Figure Standard. We hope you found the insights and strategies helpful on your journey to success. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform to help us reach more people like you. To learn more about Arash and Mykie and how Voss Coach & Co. can help you achieve your goals and reach new levels of success, visit vosscoachingco.com. Thank you again for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of 7-Figure Standard.